Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar that we have for you today. We'll get going right on the button, keep things timely. Today, we'll be covering the topic of tips and tricks for top ag loan officers. The goal of today will be to do a webinar, but the primary goal today is to leave you with actionable and practical resources, websites, tools that you can use to take your ag lending to another level. The webinar will be recorded today, so feel free to leverage that link after the fact to come back and listen to something one more time and share the link with friends. So for those of you who can't make it today live, you'll be able to leverage that recording link as well to get caught up. The webinar that we have ready for you today is a moderator and panelist setup. So I'll be the moderator, and we have a few rock star panelists that are with us today. For an overview of what we'll be touching upon is we'll provide some introductions of myself and the panelists, and we'll jump into our three main topics. The first topic is attracting and generating leads. The second topic is nurturing and qualifying and building trust. The final topic we'll be covering is closing loans and maximizing referrals. As we move through those topics today, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat. Include the person's name or who you would like the question addressed to. And then when we hit the QA session, once those topics are covered, we'll have the questions ready to go to start answering. Then we'll close out for the day. And during the closeout, panelists will have an opportunity to speak with you about what they're working on, what they would love to connect with you about after the webinar, and their preference on how they would like to be reached out to. Maybe it's LinkedIn, maybe it's by phone. So with that, we'll start off with introductions before we move into our topics. And my name is Cameron. I'm the VP of Account Management of AgCore Growers Edge. Many of you may know me as the co-founder of Aquoso AgCore. We were acquired by Growers Edge recently, which has been very exciting for us and for all of our customers, because we're able to be a part of a bigger, badder team to accelerate the features that you all have been asking for. So it's been a great blessing. I do come from a third generation family farm out of Fresno, California. So wine, grapes, and almonds. And I studied water law in law school. Maybe some of you don't know this. I'm an attorney, but never practiced. Just started jumping into ag tech right away, working with all of you great ag finance professionals a little over 7 years or so ago. So with that, I'll hand it off to Kyle for his introduction.
Yeah, thanks, Cam. Kyle Kauffman here. I am with AgCore as well as an account manager. I'm based in Illinois, was born and raised here on a grain and livestock farm. Spent the early part of my career as an ag lender before moving over to the digital side of agriculture, working for a couple different ag tech companies before coming to AgCore. So it's been a nice blend of, ag lending and ag tech, as you're going to, hear us talk about some different opportunities that the softwares provide. But yeah, looking forward to sharing some of my experiences today.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. And Brian, take it away for your intro.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Brian Weis. I am the managing director for Growers Edge of the mortgage arm. I've spent nearly 30 years in the mortgage industry as a loan officer, area manager, regional manager. I was national director of business development for a large national company. And like I said, most recently, I am the managing director for Growers Edge in the finance department. And most importantly, by the way, I'm a farm kid. So I grew up on a dairy farm in Wisconsin.
All right. Heading over that direction next week, actually, for the Wisconsin Bankers Ag Conference. Looking forward to going to that with you.
Yes, sir.
And speaking of other attendees of the Wisconsin Bankers Ag Conference, Patrick, take it away with your background.
Yeah, hi, Cam. Patrick Kerrigan, Vice President of Business Development at Farmer Mac. The longtime Farmer Mac veteran, going back to the early 90s when I joined Farmer Mac. I've worked with thousands of lenders, ag lenders across the country, and trying to educate them about the opportunities for them as well as their producers in the secondary market. Farmer Mac is a government-sponsored enterprise, and we partner with banks throughout the country and other lenders throughout the country to improve the products that they can offer to their farmers and ranchers.
Great.
Thank you for having me today.
No, thank you for joining us. So with that, we'll jump into the first of our three main topics we will cover today: attracting and generating leads. Each of these topics, including this one, Kyle or the respective panelists will kick us off, and the other panelists will chip in with some of their thoughts, some of the tools and experiences they've had with that topic. So Kyle, take us away for our first topic, attracting and generating leads.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Cam. And once again, excited to present today. So as you guys know, some of you may be seasoned vets, some of you may be new to the lending game or somewhere in between. But obviously farmers have a variety of options when it comes to financing. So, it's important, right, that we make sure that farmers know our names. And how do we do that? And I think the simple answer, besides just having a great interest rate, which is always helps, but you may not always be the cheapest, right? Is, being where they are, offering that value that goes beyond just the transactional lending, and then positioning yourself as their trusted financial partner. So, first things first, if a farmer doesn't know you, they can't do business with you, right? So, what are some ways that we can stay top of mind when it comes to the farmers that we want to be working with or that we're currently working with, right? Is kind of, as I mentioned, right, is be where they are. Local influence, I believe, matters. Farmers trust local relationships. Harkening back on my experience when I first started in my role as an ag lender, I was new to the area that I took over, and actually lived about an hour and a half away, in some cases from my furthest customers. So I didn't know my territory perfectly well when I first started there. Luckily, I took over for a lender who helped with some intros, and was a well-respected member of the community who had been there for a number of years. But, for me, you can make that introduction, but you still have to build that relationship, right? And I had to put in the work, show up every day and learn the territory. So some of the ways that I, would find to do that was, partnering up with the ag retailers, getting to know the crop consultants in the area, the seed guys, the attorneys, the auctioneers especially, and extension agents, right? Those are all great opportunities to build that relationship locally, but also to potentially generate referrals as well. So, one idea with that, alongside that, is co-hosting some sort of an event with one of those individuals, and being able to speak on an ag finance topic, so that you can kind of showcase your expertise and get your name out there. And on top of that, being present year round, right? So we're not just showing up during planting or harvest or whenever it's time for that loan renewal, right? It's engaging at different field days, going to the conservation meetings, producer conferences that that they're going to be attending, even showing up to things like their kids' FFA auctions, right? And bidding on their livestock, going to the county fairs and different other community events, right? So just being out there within the community is a big part of that. Another piece to that puzzle, right, is being more than just a lender, right? Farmers, we always hear it, farmers farm with a full team, and you want to be in that starting lineup and not on the bench, so to speak, right? So they trust those who show up with them. So regular check-ins, farm visits, and those event sponsorship commitments show that you're going just beyond that transactional relationship. So one way I did that was through utilizing my calendar heavily in my CRM tool, and making sure that I had booked out, I'm going to be in this part of the county for this week, right? Or I'm going to be in Southwest, whatever part of the county I was going to be in. If that's on your calendar, and a prospect or a customer calls into the office, and you've got that calendar shared with the support staff or whoever it might be, they can make a note of that and help you maybe book that next meeting as well. So making sure that your calendar's up to date, and even when it comes to those loan covenants, right, the things that get tagged onto the loans that we have to monitor, booking those out as well, making sure those are on your calendar in a timely manner so that you're scheduling out those key interactions. Education and advocacy is obviously a huge part of that as well, whether it's, sharing industry updates, policy changes, market trends, whatever the case might be. And any more, just as a whole, right? But even farmers are included in this. Short form videos are all the rage, right? As opposed to those text heavy brochures and mailers, right? So, this may sound crazy to some, but using TikTok, using Twitter, I'm not going to call it X, Instagram Reels, and LinkedIn really to showcase your lending solutions and your personality. So that'd be one thing I would maybe challenge everybody here today on would be experiment with a different form of media, maybe than what you're used to, and start using one of those platforms in the next couple weeks. Farmers are going to be hitting the fields hard in the next few weeks for, hashtag plant 25, right? And so give them something interesting to watch while they're on their phone in their tractors. So, and then, leveraging digital tools, right? Farmers, I read a statistic, I think it was 2/3 of borrowers start their search for borrowing online first, right? So your website, your organization's website should have the basics, right? Loan calculators, testimonials, success stories. And if they don't have all of those things, I would challenge you to have a conversation with leadership or with someone within the organization to maybe take the initiative to get some of that information on the website as well. Maybe you have a great testimonial with one of your customers that you could share as well. Additional outreach, email, texting with purpose, not just mass emails, but segmenting out whether it's a row crop grower or a livestock operation, sending them insights on something that's specific to their operation. A texting service that I can, if you segment, let's say within your phone, your row crop growers, right? You can use a service, an app called Hit 'em Up, and that's you can kind of multi-select a bunch of growers or people at once, and then it will auto-populate their name, so it personalizes that text message to them. So yes, it's somewhat mass, but you're at least kind of going towards their demographic or towards their what their sort of segment of operation is. So, and then going back to my point on using something like a TikTok or a Twitter, creating a video like that and even texting those out as ways to share as well. So just getting your personality out there. Bottom line really is if you're not consistently in front of farmers, both, online and in person, you're going to be missing out on opportunities. So we always had a saying that nothing good ever really walked in the door. You usually had to be out there finding it. So that's kind of that whole idea on awareness. So kind of next, I'd like to talk about, identifying who those ag borrowers might be. But, and anybody on the panel have anything, thoughts, any questions, anything?
I think it really struck me when you said farmers farm with the full team. Like that is very true. I never thought about it like that, but yeah, that's a great way to put it. And you talked about getting to where the farmers are. Maybe the marketing term of this is where's the watering hole where your prospects are going. Do you have any suggestions for folks out there of where they could go within their respective regions that you found were most successful for you?
I mean, it's obvious it's the coffee shop, right? That's the number one place, the local diner. I put on the freshman 15 my first year when I joined the lending organization I was a part of, just because I was always eating those rich, wholesome meals at those different places. But yeah, those are the main places. Obviously, land auctions, and then like I said, the industry referrals are important as well. So I did notice a couple questions that popped up I don't know if you're monitoring that as well, Cam, but CRM tools for ag loan officers, right? It's obviously going to be whatever your organization is choosing to use. I was, Salesforce was what it was when I was there, but obviously HubSpot is another popular one. So those are good ones that allow you to, really track and monitor all of your different tasks and activities, so that you can keep not only yourself, but everybody else within the organization kind of up to date on your borrowers as well. And sources as far as for, keeping up with the industry trends, that's a good one. Some of those and we're going to share out all of these, kind of this information as well, but simple websites like agweb.com, any of the extension sites, I don't want to trend one way or the other, whether it's Purdue, Iowa State, Kansas State, or Illinois. Take your pick on some of those extension offices. There's, some state specific ones. Farm Doc Daily, I always found through the University of Illinois, being from Illinois, was always a good one as far as, they would have updates to crop budgets, and just timely and relevant information that you could always count on. So those are some of the ones that keep up with industry trends for sure. So great question there.
Yeah. Thank you, Kyle. And I think we could dive into, figuring out where to get connected with folks in the community and, streamlining those efforts all day if we wanted to. But in the interest of time, we do got to keep moving through to the next topic. And yeah, just a friendly reminder to the audience, feel free to type in your questions as they pop into your mind, and let us know who you would like us to direct those questions towards. So with that, we'll move on to the next topic, having Brian kick us off into nurturing, qualifying, and building trust.
Thanks, Cameron. So today I do want to touch on a few topics, and that is lead nurture, building trust, qualifying leads, and guiding our clients through the process, and all the tools that help us with all of these things. And as we think about these topics, there's really four main considerations, I believe, as a framework around all of these things, right? And that framework is four things. It's mindset, it's goals, it's plans, and it's execution of those plans. And I always make a big deal out of the execution part because that's where most people fall down. I think we're all really good at, most of us are really good at planning or goals and planning, right? But where it falls down is execution. We spend too much time planning and not enough time in execution. So mindset, what do I mean by mindset as it pertains to this topic? And it's that our cold leads are just as important as our hot leads. I think we all, as salespeople, we have a tendency to focus on the sale that's going to close next month and be on our paycheck next quarter. And I would argue that even the leads that are going to close months or years from now are equally important. So we need to build a system in order to maintain those cold and warm leads and stay in touch with them as well. So that's number one. Number two is goals. That could be professional goals as far as income, as volume, as number of clients that are contacted. And when I talk about goals with loan officers, I often talk about setting goals in our tasks as well. So it's not just the production and the income. We've got to drill that down to daily and weekly tasks that lead us towards our goals, right? I think that's a big miss for a lot of loan officers today. And then number three is planning. And planning is, let's just use a simple example. If I have a goal to lose 10 pounds, I would set a plan to do, and like I did in January, frankly, a plan to do a regular workout routine. Well, that workout routine might look like weightlifting 4 times a week, plus some yoga or cardio mixed in there. And what I do then is I track those smaller tasks. So the daily workout, I track that in an Excel spreadsheet. I have an Excel spreadsheet that I can complete, and I'm going to share it in the white paper that will follow. But in that Excel spreadsheet, I can track the small activities. I can check them off as I do them. And as I'm getting closer to the due date of this goal, I can look back and see that how much I've completed that particular task. So I'm holding myself accountable. If I'm not meeting my goal and I look back and I didn't follow the plan, I need to change. I need to increase my discipline. If I'm not meeting my goal and I followed the plan, then I need to change the plan, right? So incredibly important that we track our activities and track our plans. Now, what if our plan is more complicated than what would fit into a few lines on an Excel spreadsheet? There's a lot of great project management softwares out there that can help us with a bigger, more complex project. So say our project is to plan a webinar, right? So in a webinar, it's hard to track in just a couple of lines on a spreadsheet. You've got the marketing process and the follow-up and the technology involved and the content and the panelists and what happens after the webinar, right? There's all of these details that goes into, as Cameron knows, that goes into planning a successful webinar. So you use then project management software. Some good ones that come to mind are Notion.com, Monday.com. I personally use Trello.com. like with a lot of softwares, there's the freemium, there's the paid version, and then the premium version. Trello does everything that I need it to do, and I just use the free version. So it's intuitive, it's easy to use. Trello and any of these other tools will be listed on the white paper that'll follow also, but that's what I use to track detailed, larger projects. So when it comes to our leads, we always want to begin with the end in mind. That is setting our goals, planning, execution, and beginning with the end in mind means that we're going to then move backwards from the goal into what we need to do on a daily basis. And our mindset has to be that the hot leads are as important as the cold leads. So let's talk about those individual conversations that we have with our clients and our colleagues. So those conversations are rapport building activity. And I think there's a lot of conversation or a lot of mindset or considerations that need to go into those individual conversations so that we're not missing the opportunity when we are face to face. So every conversation with a client is either a client today, a client tomorrow, or a referral source. And what do I mean by that? You could be talking to a client, building rapport, and you may realize very quickly, or you realize in time, that they're never going to be a client. They're just not a fit for any reason. Doesn't matter the reason, they're just not a fit. But the reality is everybody has a network, and you want to tap into that network by building rapport with potential referral sources. So don't dismiss a client just because they don't immediately fit your product or service. Build rapport and ask them for some help. And you can simply close out the conversation by saying, I know we're not a fit today. I know you don't really need our product and service right now. They'll appreciate the honesty. And then finish that off with saying, but you might know somebody else that has, or somebody that would fit our product or service, right? Would you mind helping me out and referring individuals that could fit our product or service? Everybody likes to help. There's no shame in asking for some help. So every conversation is either a client today, a client tomorrow, or a referral source. So how you treat every individual will impact how or if they will do business with you or if they will refer you. So in our conversations, then we want to build rapport with them. So there's a lot of great information, articles online about how to build rapport. I'll send a link to a few articles, or I'll add a few links to our white paper about informational articles on how to build rapport. I think one of a great sales trainer is Jeremy Miner. You guys may have seen him before. He's all over YouTube. He produces a ton of free content on YouTube. And the free content, by the way, is to, of course, sell a course, a webinar, or a live event. So just know his free content is out there. It's available, but you're going to be hit with a commercial at some point in there. But take the good and decide if you want to buy the webinar, but it is a great training resource regardless. So when we're talking about rapport building, I think there's a number of things we can do to build rapport in our conversations. And I'm going to list a few of them off here as we chat. But first and foremost, I think it's about authenticity. Be yourself. There's no need to pretend to be somebody else because people can see right through it. Just be yourself, be authentic. Establish common ground, right? The common ground might be a personal or a work item. It could be that you both have kids, or you both like the same sports, or you both have the same hobbies, or you're in a similar field. Establish common ground. Use your active listening skills. We all have a tendency in conversations, right, when we say something and then there's a pause, which is the other person says something back. We all go into our heads and start to think about what we're going to say next. But that's the wrong thing to do. What we should do is be listening, remain present, be an active listener, because that conversation coming back to you will lead to the next conversation, the next rapport building activity in the conversation. Be empathetic, be respectful. This is all obvious, but just friendly reminders. Mirror your clients. Okay, I love this one because one of my first mentors talked to me about how to mirror clients. And what he said was to mirror their pace and their tone. Well, I took that too far in a conversation that came not too long after that. And I started to mirror this person's accent. And I was horrible at it. Never ever mirror somebody's accent because it just comes off as mocking. It's a true story. I didn't get that sale, and don't think I ever talked to that person again. But it's easy to mirror pace and tone, right? If somebody's a fast talker, talk fast. If somebody's a slow and intentional talker, match them, talk in the same tone, right? So provide solutions, don't sell. Nobody likes to be sold, but we want to talk in terms of solutions to their problems. We want to focus on advice, not price. We want to provide value and education. Kyle mentioned a number of great educational tools. Do your homework, master your crafts, block hours a week to do research and study and learn about your industry, your product, your service. Nobody should know that product or service better than you do. And there's dozens of podcasts, newsletters, articles. Google is an amazing tool. AI can help you. I'll share one tool that I use a lot these days is the Farm for Profit podcast. It's one of the largest and most successful agriculturally related podcasts in the industry right now. And what I love about it is it's great information. They present it in a way that's very easy to digest. They're entertaining. It's fun. I swear I'm not on payroll from them. I just think it's a really good podcast, and I'm gonna. I talk about it as often as I can. It's on my playlist when I'm driving to appointments. I listen to it often. Some other things that come to mind, and then I'll move on here, but don't pressure. Nobody likes to be pressured. Nobody likes to be sold. Give people their space. And I think above all, this is the last one, and the most important one, which is to be honest. People can tell when you're lying. I talked about authenticity at the start here, but that along with that goes honesty and just telling the truth. Your client can sniff out a lie, your colleague can sniff out a lie, and you immediately lose all chance of rapport when you're lying. So Kyle touched on CRMs a little bit earlier. One of the most popular, I feel, in any larger organization is Salesforce.com. Kyle mentioned that one. HubSpot is another great one. I just started using HubSpot because Growers Edge uses it. Great tool. If your company doesn't provide a software, one that you can turn on easily and inexpensively, and is also a good CRM, is Pipedrive. Pipedrive is inexpensive, monthly service. It'll do everything you need that a CRM should do, and you can set it up without a lot of time, right? I think as salespeople, we get caught in this loop of ready, aim, fire. And we do ready, aim, 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 aim. We never pull the trigger. So be intentional, be quick about these tools. Don't get bogged down. I think CRM is probably one of the greatest indicators of call reluctance. The amount of time that we spend setting up our CRM or setting up tools just keeps us off the phone, keeps us out of the field. But use something that's quick and easy, ideally something your company supports and provides. But within the CRM conversation, I like to talk about segmentation. Kyle touched on segmentation too, but here's an example of something I do in my segmentation there are four simple categories. It's A, B, C, D. A is a deal that's a client that's going to close potentially very soon. B is somebody that's buying in the near term. C is a transaction that would be far into the future or a potential referral source. Remember I said we want to treat everybody as either a deal today, a deal tomorrow, or a referral source. And then D is delete. There's somebody you're just not going to have rapport with, somebody that's just not a fit. Just delete it. Or I actually physically don't delete anybody. I keep them in there. I categorize them as a D because time goes on. You talk to a lot of people, years pass, and you hear from somebody and it'll trigger. I think that name sounds familiar. I'll search in my database. They're tagged as D. I know not to follow up with them because it just wasn't a fit.
Hey, Brian,
That's it.
Let me interject. No, perfect timing. We got a couple of questions stacking up in the chat, the Q&A, but let's save those for the Q&A section, and we'll move on into Patrick's topic for today: closing loans and maximizing referrals. So Patrick, why don't you take it away for us.
Very good, Cam. Hey, I really enjoyed those comments from Brian and Kyle. I'm going to have to go out there and re-listen to this so I can take better notes. I'm on the firing line here, so probably not taking as good as notes as I should, but I'm going to go back and definitely pick out some of these pearls of wisdom that Kyle and Brian have been providing. So love it. You know, I come from the lens of the secondary market, right? So Farmer Mac, we're not the primary market. I work with lenders who are talking about that we're going to make a loan and they're going to sell a loan out into the secondary market to hopefully improve that relationship with the customer. I was assigned to look at it from like a post-closing servicing perspective. So, you know, one, you can follow up with the client, see how the transaction went for them after they close that real estate loan, operating loan with you, what have you. Do they have questions? Kind of be frank, right? You made it to the finish line. You've kind of achieved your goal of closing that transaction. Now let's make that loan even better. So again, starts with, you know, asking them questions. They feel comfortable with how things went. Do they have any critiques about the transaction? Keep client-related notes in your CRM. At Farmer Mac, we use Salesforce, but as Brian and Kyle alluded to, there are other options out there for you. For secondary market transactions, right? The borrowers might be, you know, concerned, have questions about, you know, who the point of contact rolling forward. Should I contact the lender? Look, should I contact the bank? Should I contact Farmer Mac? You know, how is that going to come about, especially when they look towards starting to make their payments on the loan. Use your CM for periodic follow-up with your borrowers as well. Very important, right? Like, so definitely opportunities to check in with them. You can make note on your CRM, but really importantly, let's think about 30 days out from a scheduled payment, right? Do they remember they got a payment coming up? How's their cash flows looking? You know, farmers and ranchers, they're, as you know, they're very, very busy. Got a lot going on in their head, and sometimes they might forget, hey, you know, you don't want them thinking about it 5 days before they had to make the payment. Let's remind them 30 days, 45 days prior to them making the payment. Also, always a great opportunity to seek new business opportunities while you're calling in with them, either directly with them or maybe through some of the people that farm in their neighborhood. So good opportunities, periodic check-ins to ask for or listen for additional opportunities. Here's one that really comes up a lot at Farmer Mac when we're talking with our lenders. You know, track your borrowers and your producers' interest rates to make sure they have a market rate. You know, it's always easier to retain a customer than kind of go out and get a new customer. You know, we think that if a customer is priced out of the market, their rate is too high compared to the current market, you shouldn't look at that as, oh my gosh, look at all this money that I'm making on this producer. We almost look at it as that's going to be your next customer to go refinance someplace else, right? So again, keep track of where rates are at in the marketplace. Don't have your customer paying way over market, because that's really can burn you in the end. Farmers and ranchers have a lot of opportunities. Another thing is, can go out there and Google farmland loans and see who pops up as your competition on the financing side. So you Google farmland loans. That's who your farmers and ranchers, your producers, are Googling at night when they step down off the tractor as well. So you might be surprised who the competition is out there, but look to see who they are being solicited by, at least to that one your favorite search engine that are out there. Again, try to get them a market rate. I know many, there's opportunities to do loan conversions, rate modifications, what have you, to get a customer's rate reduced, right? So they don't have any sales pressure out there from other firms. And finally, to kind of wrap with, you know, be a source of quality ag-related content for your customers. And again, Brian and Kyle touched on this a little bit. You know, deliver content for your producers. You know, send it out to them by, you know, text, email, however you like that. Better yet, think of really a best practice. Invite them to come to your bank and maybe listen to a webinar. Let them come into the boardroom. They can meet and mingle with other loan officers, other bank executives. Come on in and listen to some content, have a little bit of a conversation, and better yet, you know, buy a couple pizzas, buy them lunch, have an opportunity to kind of have everybody sit around. And there's a lot of great free content that are out there with some excellent speakers. And those can be some opportunities. Again, get the client out there, listen to some content. Maybe that leads to maybe some new business opportunities. maybe that leads to kind of just having a better open lines of communication with your producers there. So Cam, I'll leave it there. Those are kind of four things that I'd come up with, and I appreciate your time today.
Yeah, what really resonated with me on that one, Patrick, was inviting your borrowers into your bank to talk and hear content, to build rapport with your borrowers and producers. Because on the AgCore side, I've had a chance to sit in on some large customer events, medium-sized customer events that our lending customers are hosting. And I always thought it was, just really valuable all around. And my family, that at least that I know of, has yet to be invited to any on-premise events. So you lenders out there who work with us, you know who you are. Would love to hear. Would love to get some invites sometime down the road. So that was really good. Patrick, we did get a question in from the audience. It's about post-closing follow-up gifts. Do you have any suggestions or thoughts around thank you gifts? Have you heard of those being useful, not so useful?
Yeah, so we used to send out cupcakes, right, to somebody who doesn't cupcakes after you kind of close the loan. Maybe that might be hard to do in some areas of the country, but I'm sure producers like free swag and things of that nature. And there's just a number of things that you can do for people that don't cost a lot of money that is greatly appreciated, right? And again, this is going to be a delivery of a food gift that can be FedEx. We're very close by. A Carhartt jacket or a sweatshirt with the bank's logo or an emblem can go really a long way as well. And then they're walking around being a little bit of a marketing item for you as well. So think about that. It doesn't have to break the bank, but there are lots of great things out there. Sorry, I don't have anything more specific than that.
Yeah, no worries. And yeah, having your producers wearing your swag. I mean, there's just a number of times speaking of coffee shops from Kyle's section too, heard people talk about how is your experience with that fill in the blank lender, because they're wearing the logo on their shirt or their hat. So yeah, I think that's really good discussion there. And so that rounds out our main topics for today. We're jumping into the Q&A session. So we have a question for Kyle. How do lenders deal with competitiveness of the industry? Most everyone has a banker already. How do you poach them away? You always get it's a hassle to move my accounts, but anything that you have found over the years that have been successful?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dustin. And I've heard every one of those and more than once in my time for sure. So, when it comes to, having that established relationship, I mentioned you want to be in the starting lineup, right, of that farmer's team. Well, if he's already got a banker in his starting lineup to go along with his seed guy and his fertilizer guy, you want to make sure you're right there, the next best opportunity for them right there on the bench. So if that lender does, I don't want to say misstep, but as Patrick alluded to, right, if they've got a higher than market rate, that's a great opportunity. Obviously, you mentioned they already got a good rate, or their rate's better maybe than what you have to offer. That's where it really comes down to, how can we create value beyond just an interest rate, right? Beyond just it being transactional. Is that banker showing up to those community events, to those auctions? Is that banker inviting him into the bank, like the suggestion Patrick gave, to really give him that full experience of, we value the relationship that we have with you. You also asked a hassle to move all of my accounts, right? So that can come down then to, what can we do to streamline that process? Are there digital tools that we can be utilizing to make sure that we're, collecting all the information we need from them one time? That's one of the biggest things, a point I didn't touch on, but making the loan process as easy as possible for your borrowers are going to get them to continue to come back to you and to provide that referral, right? If the process was a hassle, he came back first, he needed my 401k verifications, and then he came back and asked me for this. You may have gotten that loan, but what's the chances you're going to get the next one, or that you're going to get that referral, right? So if you can streamline that process with, I always had a checklist, right? That sounds old school or whatnot. Maybe there's probably a better way to capture that today, but making sure that you've asked for every piece of information that you know that that credit department's going to need to underwrite that loan. So making that process as simple as possible, and then streamlining it, like I said, with a digital tool like a Dropbox or something that's approved by your tech or security team that allows the transfer of documents in a seamless manner. But yeah, it all comes down to that relationship, and like I said, you can't really put a value on that. So it really is truly, maybe you didn't get that opportunity with them, but you stick by them, you figure out where you put them in Brian's example of, are they an A, B, C, or D, right? Then you want to have that next opportunity with them. And so staying close, continuing to share, the things I said about, sharing relevant information, articles, podcasts, not only do that with your customers, but do that with your prospects. The guys who have told you no 2 or 3 times, that doesn't mean that you can't still continue to provide value and information to them, because eventually, there may be that opportunity that comes up with them for that next loan. So great question.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Kyle. And we did get a question or a comment, the podcast that was mentioned. This person didn't get a chance to write that podcast name down. Don't worry about writing the tools and resources down. We'll be sure to make sure it's included in the post-webinar PDF we'll be sending out via email for all of you who are attending.
But it was called Farm for Profit. Just, if you want to get a jump start before the white paper. It's funny, I had that exact one written down as a resource to share as well that I didn't get to, but that's a good one. And then a daily podcast is Agri Talk with Chip Flory. It just recaps the markets every single day. So allows you to, some podcasts are recorded and then released later. But if you're looking for some daily kind of market information, and he has different guests on every single day. And so it's, bumping up and down those country roads, you can have a podcast playing, and it just, another source of information and talking points with your customers and prospects.
The new morning radio talk show about ag. So then we have
it's released in the evening or afternoon, right? After market close at 3:30 every day. So you can
prime time
heat up and ready to play that next morning for you. Yep.
And then we have a question for Brian. Do you have any specific tactics for being valuable and helpful without being salesy to your prospects or borrowers?
Yeah, and I think this really depends on, I know we're all talking to loan officers here, but it really depends on your geography. I'd try to get as specific as you can, looking for local resources. And again, Google is your best friend. So Google local resources, newsletters, information on your local, statistics. There are a lot of services out there that provide you agricultural data locally. And we've mentioned the Farm for Profit podcast. I don't know if we can get some advertising dollars for this webinar or not, but I think it's amazing. And I think to tie into another question that I'm looking at the question list here is on reciprocity. And I think providing value as much as you can, as long as you can, without costing yourself a lot of time, that should go on forever until you get to that point where they're actually a D category or a delete. Is just to continue to add value and drip. It doesn't cost any time to create an email drip campaign with some local information that will set yourself apart. But yeah, I'll write down some additional newsletters and include that in the white paper afterwards.
And what about the thought on reciprocity, Brian? Maybe you're reaching out, trying to build a rapport, or you're at an event trying to build rapport, and it just seems like you can't crack that hard outer shell. They're not telling you to leave them alone, but it just doesn't seem like it's being returned. When do you throw in the towel, or how do you approach that?
For me, it's simple. I don't throw in the towel. I don't give up. If it's a client or an opportunity that I feel would be valuable to the organization and that I could be of value to them, I won't stop. What I will do over time is trail down the amount of time I spend. So a minute ago, I alluded to an email drip campaign. Cost literally just a few minutes to create an email drip with a value added item. They might, earlier in the process, they might be on my call list or my stop by list, but over time that'll transition to adding value to them through email, videos that take very little time. But and sometimes years down the road, they become a D, right? They become a D category, and I'm just going to categorize them a D, and then I'll stop. But until they tell me to stop, or I realize that it's just not a fit for a relationship, I just keep going. I just keep asking.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. So we'll move into the closeout section. The first part of the closeout section, I'll leave it to the panelists to have the final word. So this is your chance to tell everyone what you're working on, what you love to connect with the audience on after the webinar, and your preferred method of contact. So Kyle, take it away for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'll just reiterate, one more time, it's at the end of the day, farmers, they need capital, right? But they also need trusted financial partners. So make sure that you're there for them in the good and bad times. And if as I mentioned earlier, if you can't be that lender of choice that first go around, stick close by, continue to provide value, continue to keep awareness, like I said, through the different tools that we're suggesting here. And you'll continue to build that relationship, and eventually you'll get that opportunity. So as far as what we're working on right now with AgCore, just spreading the word about AgCore and our portfolio and our research and reporting software, which allows you to really kind of understand your portfolio from a geospatial perspective, as well as our automated valuation model to really help kind of streamline that appraisal process. So as far as what I'd like you to reach out to me about, just love to chat with anyone interested in learning more about those offerings, or just to hear about what sort of challenges and pain points you might be facing as a loan officer. Is there things that we should be thinking about as a company that we can help to kind of solve those pain points and challenges? It's always, ag tech's always known for building something that maybe isn't needed, right? And we try to force that into that square peg round hole situation, right? We want to build tools that loan officers and lending organizations are going to utilize. So reach out and let's chat. As far as the best way to connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn as Kyle Kauffman from AgCore, and we'll be sharing out my contact information with a follow-up as well. So thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Brian?
Yeah, so what I'm working on today is, like I said, I'm the managing director for the mortgage team at Growers Edge here, and what we're building is a mortgage platform that's focused on bringing modern financial products and technology to the agricultural space, and we're focused on products that lean into sustainability, regenerative agriculture, and organics. And as far as whatever, you might want to reach out to me, I'm just a big natural networker. I love to talk to people. I love to share ideas, whether there's a direct business opportunity for us to talk about or not. I just like to share ideas because I believe every conversation is an opportunity to learn from somebody. So maybe we can help each other outside of a direct business connection. So if you have any questions on any of the content I proposed here, or if you have any business development ideas you'd like to share, brainstorm on, feel free to reach out to me. As far as the best place to reach me, it's on LinkedIn as well. I'm a very heavy LinkedIn user. So you can find me, Brian Weis, Growers Edge. If you're not on LinkedIn, then get on LinkedIn and send me an email. Correct spelling of my name is at the bottom of my headshot here, but it's brian.weiss@growersedge.com, and be honored to spend some time with any of you.
Great. And Patrick, round us out. Take us on home.
Very good. Thank you, Cam. Thanks for the opportunity here to chat on this webinar. I appreciate it. Farmer Mac, we're dealing with a lot of ag loan officers coming out of renewal season, and a lot of different stories coming out of renewal season. A lot of folks have been working really hard, a little stressed out, and so we've been trying to make some of those loan officers better connections with their producers, kind of help them take the next step as they get into the field here. I work with a great team at Farmer Mac, a great team of relationship managers in the business development side. You can reach us at opportunities@farmermac.com. That's a great source to get information, get question Q&A actually into Farmer Mac. Mention ag content before. I just want to say that, you know, we're a great ag econ team at Farmer Mac, and those are able to provide to producers. Don't be shy to ask about that, and we'll see what we do to help you out there. So I think my actions are wide right now, but I'll sign off. Thanks for the opportunity. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Patrick. And everyone, be on the lookout in your email inboxes for our post-webinar PDF. We'll get a list of all the resources we mentioned today, as well as the bios and the contact information of the panelists that were able to help us out. So, yep, look out for that email. And thank you for your time today. And we look forward to hearing about some of your success stories utilizing some of the resources that you learned about today. So with that, we'll sign off. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.